This is Edie Heineman. Today I had Carol switch roles, and I am interviewing Carol Letson and Peter Letson, who were both in Greenfield Energy Committee and Greenfield Energy Committee way back in its origins. So I asked Carol if she wouldn't mind shifting roles a bit and joining Peter and myself in a conversation about their experiences at that time and what we can add to this history of the origins of greening Greenfield. Peter, would you like to start the conversation with what it was like? Do you remember when you all joined? What that year might have been?
I have vague recollections early on. In fact, I was a member of the Pioneer Valley Post-Carbon Council.
Whoa, post-carbon. When was that?
Must have been the 90s.
In the 90s?
Yeah. Not directly related to greening Greenfield, but the intention was the same. But we never really seemed to get anywhere. We just weren't well organized. And then when Nancy came along, my main memory, I know a lot of other people were involved in getting us started, but the arrival of Nancy Hazard struck me as being the real defining moment of becoming fruitful work.
And now, what was the entity when Nancy joined? Was it the Greenfield Energy Committee?
I remember sitting in the offices at NESE.
Okay, that's a Northeast Sustainable
Energy
Association. Association.
Where Nancy was executive director.
Okay.
And we held meetings there and started getting organized. And we really started to stop spinning our wheels.
Okay.
And getting things done that made us a fruitful organization.
Do you remember the first project that the focus narrowed in on that made you feel like you're finally getting somewhere?
No, I don't have a clear memory of what was first.
Okay. Or in that ballpark.
Yeah. No, it's not organized that way somehow.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Then just continue.
Early memories that I do have were the start of a film series that we did in coordination with the library.
Oh.
And they offered us room, and we ended up having to pay for it because it had to be off after hours. And
okay. The janitorial services of keeping the doors open and that kind of thing, yeah.
But they were very helpful to us. Greening Greenfield asked them to put together a book list for green reading.
Okay.
And they put together a list that then Greening Greenfield made a donation so they could buy the books that were on the list.
Oh, how great.
And one of the things that was included in our short shelf of assets was it's called a kilowatt,
okay.
Killawatt.
Oh, wow.
It's a little meter that you can plug things into that measures how much energy is being used.
I've never heard of that, I have to tell you.
So you could plug your refrigerator into it and it would record how much energy was used over a day and what the peak power was, and you got all kinds of data out of this little machine. And we got one, and they put it on the shelf as a book that could be checked out.
Wow.
Yeah, it was fun. Our movie crowds were small.
Okay.
And later on, we moved over to the church for the movies, and the movie program grew.
Nice.
Another thing we did early. I think one of my first memories, which apparently was not all that early, was the Turtle Island show.
Oh, that was a very popular
Sandra
show.
Boston did most of the work.
Why does that stand out in your memory?
Well, because it really drew a crowd. It was the first time we really filled a room.
Interesting.
And we got
at the high school.
Yeah, at the high school. It was several hundred people that came to that.
Wow. Were there kids involved in that too?
Yes. Sandra really worked to make it participatory.
Yeah.
And she was kind of discouraged that the end of the show was a real downer. So she got the kids to write a final act that was more upbeat.
Wow.
And then after the show, they put on their own ending. That was a really good program. The 10% challenge was fairly early, and that really got us into the public eye, I think. We were tabling all over town and getting people, well, there was a lot of resistance to talking to us, my impression of it, but some people did take our literature and join up, so that in fact we did get 10% of the people to cut their energy use by 10%. A parallel effort was used a book called The Low Carbon Diet, which was a book about a paper-bound book about 3/4 of an inch thick that had a whole bunch of ideas on how to cut your energy use and your carbon footprint. And we put on workshops all around town, mostly in churches. I remember doing one with Becca. And people would sign up to join us for 3 or 4 meetings to talk about ways that they could cut down their household energy use by driving less and organizing your trips around town so you would drive less, turning down the thermostat. There were all kinds of ideas on how to do it, and it was kind of a pep group to get people enthusiastic about doing some of these things. Those are the early things that come to my mind.
Okay. So what kept you at Greenfield over the years? We're talking almost 20 years.
About, almost 20 years.
17 years.
As it evolved, it was a major piece of my social life.
Okay.
I really like hanging out with these people. I have been retired from professional work essentially the whole time that we're talking about.
Okay.
So this was a chance for me to be with other people in a fruitful way.
Nice.
And every once in a while, I think I had something to contribute to the conversation. I'm fairly good at being quiet during meetings, but once in a while I would have something to add.
The observer's eye is always good. Carol, we want to jump in and piggyback Peter and elaborate on.
Yeah.
And I mean, you were a pair the whole time. You went together, right?
It was interesting that we realized that Peter had retired much sooner than I did.
Okay.
So I didn't get involved a lot until 2008.
Okay.
And but I would go to the meetings if they were after work.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
many of them were, because some of the people were still working.
Uh-huh.
And we would meet at the picnic table in the new energy park. And that's how I started meeting with the Energy Committee. I think that it was remarkable in that we had this open organizational plan for the group. We didn't really have officers.
Mm-hmm.
But lo and behold, I was looking through my documents and I found a 2008 policy and procedure document, which I do not remember. It's a 4-page document on all kinds of things which were important. Who are our members? What are our guiding principles? What is the purpose of the steering committee? Don't remember a steering committee at all.
Oh.
I think we were a committee of a whole.
Okay.
So this document is a puzzlement to me. But the PR committee has a mission, and refinement of the purpose and areas of responsibility were approved December 2007. And government relations was approved April of 2008. So it was interesting to be reminded of this trying to make our amorphous group have a skeleton for the group. I do remember initially, I think the biggest event that impacted me was the fact that Nancy Hazard, after she retired from her paid work, decided to spend day after day after day dealing with data that she was given by the town of Greenfield. And she had us join ICLEI, I-C-L-E-I. Don't ask me what it's
International Council of Leaders in Energy Improvement. It had to do with energy, though, and it had to do with a worldview
of energy use.
Yeah.
And she was determined, even though there was nobody in the town hall that could give any time to massaging data of energy use in this town of Greenfield at that time, she said, I'll do it. I don't like doing it, but I'll do it. And she did it. And she would come back looking a little mesmerized at the meetings, but she collected that data and published a report and gave it to the public. First she gave it to the committee, the town of Greenfield, and then the public.
If I might interrupt, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember someone telling us that there was an intern from Smith that helped her with that data too.
That's true.
So that helped move things along. When you bring in an outside person, you're really serious because you've got to stay on the goal.
Good point.
So that might have helped too, to kind of.
She did have 10 hours a week or something
Excellent.
like that. She did something like that.
With data, you need more than one to keep it alive. Yeah.
You know that. So that presentation was a PowerPoint presentation that went around. I hope it's still somewhere. I hope we still have that PowerPoint. I think it's been lost. Something Nancy said recently was that she doesn't know where that PowerPoint presentation is. Mm-hmm. But so that was one of the major pieces that I remember going out to the public and giving that presentation over and over and over again.
Before you go on,
yeah.
I would like to be reminded, or I am reminded, by your mention of the steering committee, that I think that piece was central to the development of how Greening Greenfield works. That because of the steering committee, we created a process for creating projects. That anybody that had an idea could bring that idea to the steering committee and seek approval for it. And that turned out to be how we worked for years. That anybody at the table could bring in an idea, and if energy coalesced around that idea, we'd make it happen. And anybody from the whole group could work on a project that they were interested in until it got done. And then on the, frequently it was some kind of an event that was being planned. At the time of the event, the whole committee would show up and support the event.
Right.
You know, even though they hadn't all worked on it. We'd all bring baked goods and do whatever was necessary to make the event
the tables.
Right.
Yes.
I have to say that I found that is the primary point that motivated me to do this project. And as you mentioned it, when you said Carol, when you said that you found this policy and procedure document that dated back to 2008, I thought, oh, that was Tom Murphy getting his, we're gonna organize this, because remember he said that he felt, I think his difference of opinion had more to do with strictly energy, and Greening Greenfield was spreading out into other sustainable issues. But let me read, I'm looking at this and listening to you at the same time, this document that says policy and procedures document. The following policies procedures are adopted as of 1/14/2008, and it has an asterisk regarding leadership. Thoughts from Transition Towns and Noam Chomsky. Leadership is about inspiring others, taking initiative and helping a group find direction that they want to follow. That might entail some or all of the following roles: critical thinker, ideas person, group harmony, maintainer, driver, organizer, integrator, chair, external networker. And the second point says leadership is not about power over the group. It's about making a group feel empowered. It's not about hierarchy. It's not about who's boss. It's about management, and it's not about followers. In particular, it's not about a permanent label that's applied to an individual. And the third point under that is other words commonly used instead of leader are facilitator, focalizer, catalyzer, convener, coordinator, chair, hub, planner, initiator. And that is the very point. So in my mind, I thought, oh, that must have been early on in the Energy Committee. But it sounds like it was done when greening took place of led into Greenfield Energy Committee. So it was the Greenfield Energy Committee, and it completely goes against my notion, and that was the one I struggled with, and other people I've noticed have wondered about that, which is why you don't have a standing chair for a certain period of time. It's because it's rotating, which is the very point that you brought up, and it's the very distinction that I find so intriguing, that Greening Greenfield has lasted for this many years with that kind of leadership, because I had kind of touched upon it in my prior lives of different organizations, but they were always hierarchical. They always had a person who was at the helm. But this one has everybody at the helm, and it's laid out right here in this document. So this isn't a document stating the hierarchy like I thought it would, but it lays in stone the very thing that you started your conversation with, Carol, which I think is really such a great model. That was a long statement, but I feel very strongly about that one thing being the key to the history of Greening Greenfield, that it works. It has worked, it continues to work, and we're doing the best as we age to hope that we can find people that will carry on.
And I think after finding this document, I'm going to make it available at the next GG meeting to remind folks, because I think some people were there in 2008, but many weren't. So I think it'd be useful to remind ourselves.
Is it on the computer? Or is this
Yep.
a paper document? Okay, if you could email it out to the meeting group,
I
that
will.
would be great.
I will. Yes, I plan to. Yeah. So, thank you, Edie, very much for recognizing those important bits of where we started and how we started.
Yeah, and it continued.
Yes, we did continue, and I think that since I've been present to the other interviews, I feel like I don't need to talk about all the details that I know. I'll pick and choose.
Sure, the ones that would lend perspective to all that you've heard and that you might have thought had been missing, and put some.
So I've been involved
points.
in transportation, that bit of energy, and so early on I decided, it wasn't that early, maybe 8 years ago, I decided to start attending FRTA meetings, Franklin Regional Transit Authority community meetings that happen every other month. So I wanted to just hear about what bus transportation was working on here in Franklin County. Our transit authority has been poorly supported by the Commonwealth over the years, and wanted to find out a way where we could get attention. And I have not been successful. but there have been changes and some improvements, and I'm very glad I got involved with that. I did get involved with there's an informal group on Facebook, Western Mass Transit, the Friends of Western Mass Transit, which isn't really active right now, but it was for about 5 or 6 years, very active. And we wanted to get our voices heard by the governor and by those that were funding our part of the transit system. So it's been an up and down thing. I think now we're going to another direction, and I'm not happy with it. That the new idea is that we're going to do a ride sharing with individual cars. That is not the way that energy efficiency should go. So that's my opinion. I thought I'd put it in my interview.
Right.
But some people are trying it out and saying in our transit authority area, we're going to do ride sharing. Some people are very happy about it. We'll see where it grows. Maybe it'll grow to something more energy efficient.
Would you like to tell us a little bit more about what you don't think is particularly sustainable about it?
I think it's great. One of the actions that needs to happen is to get our school buses to be electrified. And that maybe is a more productive way to go right now for energy efficiency in our transportation, in our group mass transportation. I'm not thrilled with the east-west rail service.
Oh, okay.
I think that's pie in the sky. Let's work on the ones that we can work on right here, like electrifying school buses.
Okay.
Like getting a better routes and more frequent bus service in this area, and that takes state support.
Okay.
So anyway, that's...
So you've stuck with that issue for a long time now.
Right. It's interesting where it's led, in my understanding. Another partner that we've had is the Franklin County Solid Waste District. They've been a partner in our, what was the name of the fair that you and I talked about this?
Better Living?
The Better Living Fairs.
Okay.
The Better Living Fairs were held at the Franklin County Fairground, and it was a partnership including many organizations in town, but Greenfield was one of them. And Amy Donovan, who was chair of not chair, but she She helped at the fairgrounds organizing recycling.
Yes, I've worked with her as a volunteer on a couple of her
She's been terrific as a partner.
There's an annual festival. What is that? It's different than the fair that you're talking about. It's in September. I did that for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
When I first got here.
Yeah.
It's the big
focus?
It's
The Franklin County Fair.
That's the Franklin County Fair.
Yeah.
Yes.
That would be and
She has a whole method of
she
delivering the bins and informing the vendors how to use them and where to collect the oil.
She's still doing it.
Yeah, and she brought up people who were involved in the waste departments in Springfield and Holyoke. I met a couple of people who were, so it was an extensive effort. And she continues, yes.
She continues, and she's been she hasn't been part of Greenfield, but she certainly has, we've networked together.
Yes.
To support each other.
And I think Greenfield honored her with an award at one point.
Oh, a Green Hero?
Green Hero, I guess.
Yes, it was. Oh, that's another thing. I hope somebody else in our interviews has talked about the Green Heroes, because that was a great way to hold up individuals who are working really hard on.
Can you tell us a little bit about the Green Heroes?
Well, I have made a collection of clippings of those Green Heroes from the newspaper when we published them, and I have them in a bag right here, but I can't really bring them out and name all the names. But we have selected every other month. We selected someone to showcase in a color ad, and the newspaper helped us do that. We paid, but the newspaper helped us with a good visibility.
Yeah.
And so we showcased individuals in their homes, people in their organizations who help with energy efficiency, and we published those on a regular basis. That was a good thing. I think Amy Donovan was one of those.
Just trying to kind of normalize involvement in energy efficiency, to show that, hey, just ordinary people are doing innovative things,
right?
And it's not putting them back in the Stone Age. They're
improving their lives.
Improving their lives.
Nice. I noticed that there's a local hero decal that has to do with marketing in grocery stores.
Grocery store. It's the farmers.
Did the idea stem from that, or
No.
did that stem from your idea of the ad with the Green Heroes, or they just sprung up simultaneously?
Yeah. That was, yep. So I have this bag over here.
Oh my goodness.
So these are the clippings that I scanned and put on a thumb drive and sent to the UMass archives.
Okay.
So because they're hard to deal with and they're turning yellow.
Yes. Do you still have that information? Did you give the whole thing to UMass?
I gave the thumb drive to UMass.
Oh.
Yeah.
But you scanned it. You must have shadows in your computer. You went straight to your thumb drive?
No, I went to Copycat.
Oh.
No, they're the only ones that could have dealt with these yellow papers.
That would be great to have on our website.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Yeah, they're very tiny print. They're very tiny. I mean, the images are big, but the print's small.
Right.
And then also, I have these clippings which helped us remember, oh gosh, what was that fair called that we used to do? So we do have some.
The Better Living Fair.
The Better Living Fair. And
I would like to remember the Greenfield part of the Better Living Fair, that we put on a collection of 16 or 20 45-minute presentations at the fair. And we had local experts. I'm not going to come up with names, but we have people that were well known locally for a piece of sustainability.
I remember that well. When I first came here, I helped support that, and I remember there were 2 areas up at the fairgrounds, and one was energy and one was pollinators. Well, I'm not sure, they said gardening at that time, I think. And they had all the issues around energy and gardening, and a speaker every 45 minutes, and we had just ongoing all day. Those workshops went. They were amazing.
Yeah.
And they had local experts giving their talks on. I know that the fellow with the straw house, what's his name?
Oh, Tom.
No,
For the
no.
bees?
No, not the bees, not Tom Sullivan. Spartan. Spartan was one of the presenters on, I think he works with something to do with heating.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does solar energy. Yeah.
Solar energy. And Alyssa LaRose from FERCOG, I think,
Yes.
did something on bicycling
Oh, yes.
and how she would take her kids in her bike and she'd bike around town and she bikes to work, and safety rules and how to equip your bike, and those were the ones
She
that I
was a
remember
very
well.
brave
Comparison
mother.
of electric cars was
Yes.
one of them?
Oh, when it went out, we did the one that was another out at the
Right, that
high
was at the
school.
tech school. Yeah.
And
Tech
that we
school.
had 5 people who owned electric cars come and hybrid cars. I got my first ride in a Tesla, I remember. That was like walking into a spaceship. And that was a good workshop. That was filled. But that was the last year we did it.
Yeah.
Or we did it one more year, and that was the last year. Because that was very successful with the cars. I think we did that one more year, but management had changed. It had been taken over by the newspapers, and it was getting more expensive and to join it and do it. And we didn't feel that we got the audiences to warrant that kind of expense.
You're
That's
right.
my recollection.
Yes. Yeah. That was good things are great, and they have a momentum, and then things change,
And
and
you
you
move
have to
on.
find something else.
True.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I was very impressed with the way networking worked, because we were part of that huge fair, just part of it.
Mhm.
But we were allowed to be part of it.
Yes.
And it worked for a while.
Right. Right.
I think it touches on an interesting feature of Greening Greenfield, that we were interested in energy efficiency, but not in any particular business, so that we could we could sponsor workshops like that.
Yeah.
And have local experts that didn't sell a product,
Right.
which was kind of at odds with the rest of the Better Home Fair idea, because everybody else there was trying to sell their product. And we were religiously not selling anything. And I think as we tried other events around town, like the 10% challenge, it was important that we weren't selling anything, and people knew it.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
Greening Greenfield was an advocate for an idea
Interesting.
and not for making a buck.
And that idea took a long time coming to bloom. Only now
Yeah.
is it are we hitting a tipping point of corporate acknowledgement of the damage of fossil fuels.
Right, and also I'm just amazed at the recognition this city of Greenfield now is getting for energy efficiency in the state, in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. That surprised me. That was in the last 2 months?
Yeah.
Yeah, some recognition for the work and Carol Collins' role in that, and how she came in on a grant that GG helped the town get, and she's still with us.
Yeah.
And we are blessed that we have that office here.
Actually, Greenfield has been recognized for some time. When the state first had its recognition for, I can't
Green
remember what-
communities.
for the green communities, we were
Right.
one of the first.
We still have that picture of you guys on the courthouse steps. It's
But just this last year, the city of Greenfield has been recognized as another
Yeah.
in another, I don't know, competition.
right.
But,
Right. I bet she gets a lot of queries about how she does things.
She doesn't.
Meaning Carol Collins.
Carol Collins doesn't let up.
tenacious, huh?
She is. You know, it's fun to talk with her, but I wouldn't be one of the department heads in the city of Greenfield if I didn't agree with her.
Interesting.
Yeah, she's good. I don't think there's much else I want to say except that the most recent thing that I've been so impressed with is the housing forum.
Oh my, that has definitely found a home here with Susan McGaftick as the leader and continuing, because it is going to be a long haul to make that work. It threads its way through every aspect of social services and legal development,
state
developers,
government.
state government, all of it. And you guess you got to start somewhere, and Susan's to be congratulated for kind of wrestling with that and keeping it alive.
Yep. And also educating our government leaders, because they are very busy. Our town government leaders.
Yes.
They're very busy, and they have other things on their plates, and it's a challenge to get the attention that housing needs. So.
Right, and she certainly brought in a lot of leaders. Government leaders did sign into those workshops. Another issue that rings true to bring us into the current age, and I think this is the last interview that we've talked about doing. But we have new people in Greenfield that have not been interviewed, since their history is so much shorter than the people we have interviewed. But the advocacy for the Connecticut River and
pump storage
and educating everyone to the process of the relicensing that's been going on for years is another area with Peg Hall, who is a new member of 3 or 4 years in Greenfield, and has the expertise to talk to legislators. And she's had amazing conversations with Joe Comerford's office, and that's where I really saw how our expertise can help our state leaders.
Yes.
It's a complicated process, and it's because it's part of government, and the way things stand now, many citizens have lost their trust in anything corporate or governmental.
Mm-hmm.
To see how complicated those issues can be, and to move them forward and keep the public voice being heard was demonstrated for me with the partnership between Peg and Nancy working on that. I was part of the committee, but I was just sort of like a fly on the wall to what they knew already and tried to make
on the
happen.
river issues.
On the river issues. And
Okay.
Greenfield, that's one thing we might want to put into the record, is that we do not advocate as partisans for any issue. And that's been very strict enforcement, and put in a new set of policies that when I'm going to go back and I'm going to read this policy document versus the one that we established a few years back. We have one that we already have on the website. I'm going to look at that and see how they compare. But we've never taken sides. But certainly when the issue is environmental and in everyone's interest, we've treaded that line very carefully to try to educate to what's going on.
Our government officials and the public.
Yeah. So that's quite a place to come to from its humble beginnings to create an energy park, and now to be a voice in the conversation, in the country's conversation.
Good.
Well,
Good.
do you have anything to add, Peter?
Yeah, there was one thing that Carol and I were remembering, but hasn't made its presence into this conversation, about the Science and Sustainability Expo. That we were involved in. We did not. Didn't do it. It was mostly the work of Susan Reyes, but it wouldn't have happened without us.
Yes. Was she a teacher?
She's an educator, I think she was working on a grant. She was kind of freelancing on a grant.
Okay.
And invited the teachers to form teams to do research on wind turbine design.
Wow.
One of the major pieces of the Science and Sustainability Expo was the Kid Wind competition.
I've seen that on the website.
And we brought in a wind tunnel.
Yes.
That they could put their experimental wind turbines into and compete on how much electricity they could generate.
Wow. How fun. Now, was it across schools or was it at the high school?
There were several schools involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we held them at GCEC.
GCC, right?
And, yes. And another piece of the action was the solar dollhouse. What was that?
I was going to say dollhouses were involved in some way to make them energy efficient. Yeah.
Much easier in a dollhouse than in your own house. Yeah. I'd forgotten about Susan Reyes' roles. That was a very important role she had.
She really made that happen. She worked very hard at it.
Now that name I've seen on our list because I deal with the list, but I've never heard who she was or that she played a part in Greening Greenfield, so that's a nice thing to bring up.
She met with us, but she never joined us.
Right,
she was not part of Greening, because
she supported us, however, in the
she did the work.
Yeah.
We supported her.
I mean, ongoing since the fairs.
Yes.
But I see that she gives us a donation on a fairly regular basis. And I always wondered who she was because I confused her with Susan Perez. So I thought, oh, Reyes, wait, that's different.
Yeah.
That's
Susan Reyes lives in Shrewsbury, and we had known her because she would attend the same Quaker meeting we did.
I love it. All the networking, yes.
Yes. And I think she and Nancy knew each other through energy topics.
And did that fair go on more than 1 year, or was it?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
It did.
Every other year? It wasn't every year. It took too much energy.
It seemed to be significant.
Yes.
It was a big deal.
Yeah. I think our biggest participant school was the Four Rivers Charter School. They were great partners in that effort.
And they do their video every year. I sent out that email last night.
Yes.
They're coming up again tonight.
It's tonight.
I have to remember. No, it's not.
I'll have to look at my email.
I'm losing track. What day is this? Friday?
Today is.
I hope I didn't miss it. Maybe it's next week.
Oh.
I always watch it because I love their.
Yeah.
Those are the students that, as a class project, which fosters what I think is the best way to educate anybody. The siloing of subjects is so counterproductive for many learners. But to create a project that you have to just do it all. So you learn your math and your reading and your research skills and your physics and your chemistry and everything there is to know about a particular project. And they did that wind farm, and they've done other electrical issues in the past. That's my memory is very poor, but I do know that school has taken on that project for I don't know if it's their seniors. I think it's their senior project.
Yeah. Yes.
So they videotape and they interview and they write the scripts and
that'll be on their website too.
It will be on website. Yes, it'll be on their website. Yeah. And I sent it out in the GG Discuss yesterday.
You did. Yeah.
So yes, is there anything else that we want to that's dangling out there that Greening Greenfield has managed to
just a fun thing. So sometimes we do fun things, like we had green mugs made as gifts to people who we wanted to honor, and so we said, I bring one over here. Yeah, there's one here, a green mug.
Yes. Oh, that's cute with the spoon. Yeah.
So everybody had something to contribute. Let's see. Oh, this is back in the 10% challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And So there were promotions trying to entice people into thinking about new ways of living.
Nice.
Yeah.
Changing some of our old behavioral
Right.
issues that create problems now. Yeah, it's a changing world.
Well, thank you, Edie. This helped me bring up things to do some research.